Hey guys, hi. Thanks. If any of you guys are interested in possibly being a senator in Student Government Association for the School of Music and Fine Arts, I will be waiting outside. It's super easy. You come in, you talk to the senators, and they say, yep, and we need one more person. So if any of you want to, I'll be waiting outside after forum for 10 minutes. So come say hi to me. I'm in an orange shirt. So thank you.
Yo, what's good, guys? My name is Wags, and I've got a track coming out on SoundCloud today for free download. It's called Vices. You should check it out. If you guys are into like bassline, groove, and jackin' house, that's right up my alley. And then if any of you guys are not staying home this weekend for Voodoo, but are instead making the journey with us to Halloween, what's so not? I know you'll be there. We are throwing a little some in the campsite if you guys want to come through for some after hours DJ fun and what's stuff like that. All right, let's get down.
Hey, what's up? Thanks. Okay, so just this semester, I'm the Grammy U New Orleans representative. So if anyone's interested in joining that, there's a lot of cool like networking opportunities. And a month ago, we gave away 10 free Beyonce tickets. So there's just a lot of cool perks to joining Grammy U. So if you guys want to do that, I'll be up here after forum, and I'll get your contact info. Other than that, if you're already a Grammy U member, there's like a jazz rock artist, Esperanza Spalding. If any of you know her, she's having a sound check next Thursday between 2 and 4 for Grammy U members only. So if you're part of Grammy U, then you should be getting an email about that today. And if you're not and you want to go to that, and it's free, there's like a Q&A after, then just come find me. Thank you.
Hey guys, so I work for Warner Music, and on Thursday at Peaches Records, Kevin Gates is coming. So you guys should come. It's gonna be awesome. He's just gonna be taking pictures, signing, finals, all that stuff. You guys should make it. It's gonna be great. Thanks.
He said 3 p.m., just in case you didn't hear it. I'm Victoria. I am part of NOLA Sound. If you do not know what NOLA Sound is, it's an EU on campus, which is an entrepreneurial unit. These are real companies that students run and students are a part of. They're all paid, so you're paid for whatever work you do with us. So it's a pretty cool opportunity to learn how to run a live sound system, to set up systems. It's helpful if you're a musician. It's helpful if you want to kind of do anything in this industry. So if you're interested in joining, you can email us at nolasound@gmail.com, or if you know one of your friends who's already a member, you can talk to them. Jay is going to be the new me starting in January. So if you want to talk to him, he's really, really nice. So he'll talk to anybody. So if you're interested, email nolasound@gmail.com or talk to Jay or anyone else who, or Jay Crudy. Jay Crudy is part of us, so get more information. All right.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? My name's Lewis. I graduated a couple years ago. You may recognize me from passing out flyers just a second ago. This is totally different. I make websites. I'm a front-end web designer, and I'm trying to get into making websites for bands and festivals. So if you guys are doing events or have a band and you need web presence, let me know. My email is lewis.monroe@gmail.com. You can also find me at Facebook. Kate can probably hook you up, actually, with my email. Love to hear from y'all. Thank y'all.
Good segue. Hey, y'all. Couple of things. First thing, you will now see 2 a cappella ensembles in your ensemble listing. If you're talking to your advisor, please know that those are still both audition. You will get placed in one of them, but that takes place Tuesday, Thursday, 2 o'clock, and then the second one at our normal 3:30 ensemble time. So just be aware of that. Second thing, for those of you who talk to me about becoming a part of Full Tilt, we're cranking up. So please email me and tell me that you're interested. Full Tilt is an event management, marketing type company. We're still deciding what it's going to be, so you would have an active role in deciding the navigation for that. Please, please, please. I really need some help, and we have a lot of things that we could get paid to help put on here on campus and off campus. So I don't know. You want to make money? Call me. Okay. Third thing. I'm taking the Paris trip. You guys all know about that. Hopefully by now you're getting bombarded with information. That takes place on May 17th. We depart. June 21st we return. In the interim, you would take some classes, one of them being mine, street music. Pretty cool. The other thing you would do with me would be to go to Cannes, France, and go check out MIDEM, which is the world's largest music industry conference. Students in the past have come back with internships with G Unit and I believe Iggy Azalea's team 3 years ago. So yeah, if you're into that, white girls who can rap, go to MIDEM with me and we can try out our white girl rapping skills with their team. All right, thanks guys.
Alrighty. I just have one announcement before we get started with the main event. And that is that our third Saturdays at the Neutral Ground, the first two have happened and they've really, really gone great. And I really want to thank the performers who have played at them and the people who have come out to listen. It's been a lot of fun. We have another great night coming up in November, then not happening in December. And then in January, we start up again. January's booked, but for those of you still interested in doing it, who have been procrastinating for some reason about contacting me, stop procrastinating, reach out, send me an email. I'm still booking February, and then we're also going to have them in March and April. So as you can tell, it's booked pretty far in advance. But get a hold of me in the next couple weeks if you're interested in doing one next semester. All right, well, our guest today is someone that we're all really excited is here. And rather than do a big introduction, we'd like to dim the house lights and play a video for y'all. So Chris Emerson, a.k.a. M.O. Instead, a.k.a. What So Not.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming, man.
No worries. Thank you.
I know that a lot of them are psyched to have you here because they've told me so, and I want to thank in particular Don, David, Joseph, and Ethan for suggesting questions for me to ask Chris.
Awesome.
So, have you ever sat in front of an audience of 300 aspiring musician and music industry people?
Not in this context. I've done a presentation for Ableton Live School where I came in and brought in my laptop, opened up some projects,
Right.
talked about the music industry and all the different crazy aspects of it.
Do they, you can endorse Ableton and become an official artist?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you are?
I'm not, but I use it, so it's what I do. It's like, everyone has a MacBook.
Right.
Or they don't if they're running something that's preferred on Windows. Yeah.
Is that where a lot of your creative process happens in that?
In
that
Ableton?
software? Yeah.
Yeah. It's the direct audio interface, where everything goes into that, is recorded into that,
Right.
or created in that. Yeah.
Now, you're at the end of a North American tour.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been to New Orleans before?
I have. I think this is my fourth.
And you're doing Voodoo on Friday?
Correct. Yes.
A bunch of you guys will be there?
I've heard it's a really good one. Is Voodoo really fun? Yeah.
How?
Yeah, I'll see you there as well.
How are you? I looked at your touring schedule, and it's
Yeah.
just insane. And I'm not just talking about this tour, but over the last few years.
Yeah,
you've spent an awful lot of time on the road.
Yeah, I have. It's been a crazy few years, for sure. And touring, just in my circumstances, what I had to do at those points in time to get everything moving and keep everything moving. And it wasn't really always what I wanted to be doing. I would have loved to have taken a bunch of time off and gone and written music, you know, in a simple, like, comforting space. But it ended up being sort of pushed and pulled around the world and finding a spare hour in a transfer driving to a regional festival, or
Right.
in a hotel room recording demo vocals into my laptop and things like that.
So it's not a lot of glamour.
No, it's
sometimes,
definitely,
right?
like, honestly, it's definitely not.
Right.
And the further up you go, I think the more you have to understand in so many different aspects. And the more you have to rely on skilled people around you to fill the gaps of the limitations of time that you have. And if you want to have, you know, an enjoyable life for yourself whilst having an exciting career, you really need to find people that can, you know, be very, very spot on with what they're doing for you.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember feeling frustrated that on the road I wasn't in creative musician mode. I was in touring, performer, tunnel vision to the next city mode, and trying to find those times to be creative on the road is really hard.
Yeah, this was my first American bus tour, like my own bus tour that I did, just finished on the weekend.
So it's just you and a tour manager in the bus, or just you?
It was much more than that. I had a merch guy that was actually also a front of house and a photographer. I had a videographer. I had tour manager. I had an LD VJ, and then we had all our support acts as well. And that bus tour is, strangely enough, the most productive I've been, I think, ever.
Did you have a driver from Texas?
We had a driver from Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Was he from Nashville? I think he was from Nashville. The bus
They're always from the South.
Yeah, they are.
That's
Yeah.
Texas.
It's a bus
or
life.
Florida,
Yeah.
a lot of them are from.
It was interesting because we had. I mean, these are the sorts of decisions you make all the time. And one of the decisions was I wanted to do the tour with very few days off in a short block of time, which meant one, it was going to be absolutely grueling and exhausting.
Right.
But two, everyone would be very, very focused. There was no slacking off. There was no, oh, we're going to go out and get wrecked tonight because we got
3 days at the
days
Grand
off.
Canyon, not
Exactly.
happening.
It was 2 days at Niagara Falls, but that's all we got
that's nice.
the whole tour. And what it did, it kind of forced us all to just step up our game, be very focused, very on point, and everyone was essentially trying to big up each other in work ethic and, you know, getting everything done to every T crossed and every I dotted.
Is it a mix of clubs and festivals, or is it mostly festivals?
This one was mainly theater shows for me. So we designed the stage layout. We sourced materials.
You have a lot more control for your visuals and everything.
Yeah, definitely. The visuals as well. I've been working to build them with these guys from Australia called Babacool and Letitia, who's creative director for the project.
Who did the video?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So that video was actually, I actually wrote the whole thing, and it was the first time I'd ever done that, and it was a bit scary, but I'm pretty glad with how it all...
You storyboard it?
Yeah, so we were... This song in particular was an interesting one. It was why it was the title track of this recent body of work, was because it was more than a song, at least for me. It came together, the first demo was really a sequence for the live show. And I built it to be this sort of crescendo of just a rolling modulating bass line, and imagined like the lighting sequence that would go with it. And then I actually wrote this full narrative the same day that I wrote the first demo. So it was this whole thing of like, this will be a piece of the show that creates, you know, essentially just excitement and tension.
Yeah.
And that was the idea. And then...
and a lot of really powerful images.
Yeah. And then I found myself sitting at a cafe in Los Angeles, my team being like, hey, we need to come up with this video concept, like who do you want to work on it? And then I ended up just sitting there at that cafe and writing this 15-page storyboard treatment, pulling images off the internet.
And when you see it now, is it like, that's pretty much what I had in mind?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's great.
Pat and the guys at Babacool took out some detail and added a couple extra things, but it's very much the same concept, and I really trust them visually, aesthetically, in every way. They've been doing all my visuals for my live show, which has been very expensive, and it's such a gamble investing in yourself and backing yourself like that, but I think very much worth it.
Absolutely.
Now that I see the recaps and the videos of this tour that I've just done, and see what it looks like, and see all the comments of what people think about it, it's all been worth it for sure.
Well, let's talk about that a little more for them, because this is a choice, a balance you have to weigh.
Yeah.
Right. And everything cool costs money.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh,
and so you're spending the money because it's your art and you want it to be awesome.
Yeah.
But you also want to create fans, persuade people, be something that's great that people will talk about, not something that people say, well, it was all right.
Yeah, that's definitely.
You want to blow minds.
I would not like that at all.
And so, is it a big chunk of your touring money that goes into the visuals?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even want to get into it.
Okay.
it's something.
I got a lot of other stuff to talk about.
Anywhere from a third to half of my bottom line is removed and reinvested. And that's money that I don't ever see. It's not like you invest it and then you sell your shares at the end, like a financial business. It's literally you invest it and then hope that the creative value you get out of that helps you boost up everything that you're trying to achieve.
I read a really something. So I did a lot of research about this.
Okay.
As I told you. Research
what did
is
you
a thing
find
that I
on me?
do. Well, this is from an interview. You give a lot of interviews.
Do I?
A lot that I found. And I loved that you said this. You said, I don't think people should DJ at festivals. It's got to be more than that. Give them a performance with guests, maybe someone on a drum kit. It's got to engage people, be live. It's got to be real. And I think that is so awesome to me, especially coming from an EDM artist.
Yeah.
So talk about the performance aspect.
Well, I think that it's just changed so significantly. I mean, when I started DJing 10 years ago, it was a whole different landscape. There was barely any DJs, for one. Not many people were actually doing it, but a lot of people really enjoyed going.
There were DJs in clubs.
Yeah, but not anywhere near the level of a number of people that do it now.
And all these EDM-oriented festivals.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, people would go to shows, to festivals, to just experience the set rather than go to see an artist because they have a popular song on the radio. It was a very different thing, I felt. DJs were like trying to play the weirdest song they had and still captivate people. Whereas I feel like now it's turned into the DJ is the producer, and therefore it's more of a band thing where you go to see that song that you love from that group, if that makes sense. And I don't know that it has the same effect now when, say like someone like maybe Richie Houghton or something is a phenomenal DJ using CDJs or turntables and kind of layering sounds and rhythms. I think that still has a place, but I don't think that's what, there's such a big market of people that aren't going to festivals to see something like that.
Right.
And I think I'm still technically DJing, but for me now it's more than what I'm doing. It's about the visuals that we spend, years building that precisely translate the vision and the stories written behind each song. The lighting sequences that we come up with, the eventual money that we can put into production, to building stages, building different concepts. And I hope to have, different elements of the stage moving and have performers and both dancing or, even just some sort of strange theater type thing.
You're creating a multimedia experience.
Exactly.
And a show that does it have a narrative?
Yeah.
Beginning, middle, and end?
It
kind
does.
Of dramatic arc?
Yeah, it's this, it starts up here because I chose to do that. It starts with Divide and Conquer, actually. And I chose to do that because generally when you're performing against, I don't mean that in a negative way, but when you're performing against other artists at a festival, there's multiple stages. You need to come in, I think, at a high note because the guy before you was probably Snails and he was playing the loudest bass music you could possibly imagine. So you got to kind of, I came up with this idea of I didn't want to be a guy like constantly up here. So I would start up there and then warm down for myself and then take it on this up and down wave and then eventually come to like a slow rise and then finish gently.
Also, if there's multiple stages, it's kind of like, hey, everybody, come on over, right?
You want to try and just get everyone in and then hopefully they like it and they stay.
Now, how much does your set change from night to night? Is there any room for spontaneity, improvisation?
I mean, that's the other thing, and like I was saying, I don't know if we should be DJing at festivals or like having it, because it has to be very planned. Once you have, lighting, video, performers coming out, everything's got to be cued.
Right.
And
right.
When I change the set currently, it's mainly because of time restrictions. So I might have an hour and a half set,
you cut a few
an hour and 5 minute set, and then you have to rearrange everything. And then you have sort of a set piece that's for different time brackets for wherever you have to fit it on whatever type of show you're doing. I'll always try and make, if you sit in the green room, I'm not partying and drinking before any show ever. I'm usually always going through redoing mixes of things that I wasn't quite happy with from the previous shows, making a last-minute edit of some song that I really wanted to play that night, finishing a new original, rearranging some part of the song because we have a guest who's in town or who's kind of come out and you need to like rebalance everything, take out the lead vocal and all of that.
So you'll literally be backstage tweaking things that you'll then go out and do.
Yeah.
So that's spontaneity.
I suppose it's not spontaneity in the sense of DJing. Like we had it. So
you're not changing the set list.
Exactly. And if I am, it's more to account for time rather than, DJing is about looking out and seeing what the room needs.
So what do you like to see when you look out?
I like to see people. You know what? I like to see people. That's cool. You guys can do whatever you want. No judgment. I honestly love to see people smile. I love looking out and seeing people happy. I love to see people looking at the people next to them and just dancing and just being quite carefree and really, you don't have to look at me. I'm not there for that. It's meant to be an experience and I want everyone just enjoying it in whatever the way they want, whether it's dancing, starting a mosh pit, closing their eyes and just looking up. Whatever you guys want to do. It's about,
So no do's and don'ts for them on Friday
night. Not at all. I'm just trying to build something that instigates an emotion in everyone and everyone just enjoys a show.
Well, in New Orleans, people have been known to enjoy a show from time to time.
Excellent.
I wanted to ask you, because when I hear that, the music is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Well, that one's pretty angry, but...
What's that?
That one's pretty angry.
Pretty angry?
But
it has that beautiful spot where it goes to that little acoustic guitar texture.
That was the whole idea. The day I wrote this demo, it all, like I said, it all kind of just happened together, and it actually made me late for my show at this club in Barcelona.
Really?
And I was, I get my tour manager calling me like, where the fuck are you? We're meant to be downstairs right now.
You were in mid-inspiration.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So I'm like, typical me, I'm meant to be down there, and I'm just starting to like run into the shower. So I run into the shower, quickly just trying to get clean so I can go do the show. And then I remember this particular time in the shower, this melody just came into my head after I'd written the first demo, and I just grabbed my phone, soaking wet, ran out, like just sang in this sort of orchestral stacked harmony kind of thing, and that became all the guitar parts.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you a guitar player?
No.
I wanted to ask, do you have any musical background? Do you play tuba in the orchestra?
This is the funny thing about, it kind of reminds me of the whole concept of punk rock, right? So I've played the drums for 10 years. That's my musical background.
Gotcha.
I never did anything melodic until I went into actually producing music.
Wow.
So I don't write in a traditional sense.
Well, drums can be melodic in a sense.
To some degree. I wish I learned guitar or piano or something. I think it would have helped a lot.
Did you play drums in bands as a kid?
Yeah,
that kind of thing?
Yeah. I was playing drums in a band all through high school. But the funny thing about it is I have a very unorthodox way of writing, and I work sometimes with friends, and we just jam out on things, and a lot of them are trained musicians. And it's funny just seeing how they would write a song and how I would write a song and how anyone would really write a song. And it makes me think that there's so many people who could have done amazing creative things, but maybe they just didn't think that they could because they weren't trained, or they were just never told that they should just do it and try. And I mean, I was working a desk job at the same time I started DJing. And I've figured that's just what I do. I just be at a desk my whole life. And then I made the split decision to quit my job. Me and my girlfriend of 3.5 years broke up, and then I went to South America for 2 months and just partied with my friends, which you should all do at some point.
At what age was this, Chris?
23.
Okay.
And then I just kind of backed myself, and I just said, no, I think I can do this music thing. I'm just gonna quit everything. I got offered a job DJing at this grungy little pub down the road from my house every Thursday night, and essentially that one gig was more money than I was earning from working all week.
This was after South America?
Yeah, so I got that, and I was like, cool. And then job was done, did that, and that gave me time. And time really is the most crucial thing in all of this. And you need to. I worked out essentially a system where I could make the maximum amount of money I could in the shortest amount of time possible, so that I had the maximum amount of time possible to work on my craft, work on my ideas, work on creating everything, going to meetings, right. Negotiating deals, and all of that kind of thing.
And so you're in Sydney, Australia?
Yeah.
And is there a big dance music scene in Sydney?
Well, the government significantly has messed it up by...
the government's messed it up?
Yes, they have. They brought in these lockout laws, which really just crippled everything, and had property developers come in and either buy the venues or buy the property that was owned by the venues next to the venues, so that they can never really come back and do it. There would just be noise complaints constantly.
So it's not just dance music, it's the whole music scene?
Yeah, just essentially like I said, I got offered this one gig on a Thursday night near my house that paid more than me working my ass off for minimum wage all week, right? And those opportunities don't exist anymore. So there will not be an opportunity for a young kid to give it a shot being creative, and spend all that time all week working on their craft until they get it to a point where it might be worth something.
Right.
Yeah.
So that one thing can make such a big difference.
Exactly that. I did that. I played at the local pub, and I was DJing like on Friday and Saturday nights at a bowling alley. And that was how I made my money, so that I could do the What's Not project.
But once it's self-sustaining.
Once it's self-sustaining, but you know what? It took me 4 or 5 years before I could barely live off it. And that's pretty common, you know? So you need to work out systems of how you can make money that gets you to that point.
Right. I think I read in another interview you said Australian audiences don't dance as much.
They don't, no.
That's weird. I would have thought they'd be just completely crazy dancers.
We're traditionally quite a like rock and roll kind of culture. And
AC/DC.
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
And there was this wave of shuffling that came in. If you guys are familiar with shuffling, that came in Australia 2004, 2005, and was popular until about 2008, when everyone started really hating on it and ripping on it.
This is when you were starting out.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing back then was, people only played, at least there was hip hop clubs, which were totally separate, and then there was dance clubs. And the dance clubs, the BPM did not deter from 124 to 130. Everything was within that bracket. So there was only certain ways you could dance to it, because you can't, you know, there's no...
Well, I think of that as being true of dance music in general back in the 90s.
Exactly.
You know.
So everyone was in sync, essentially, and everyone moved in the same ways. And whereas now I think it's definitely all over the place, and people are kind of just raging and shaking their heads, and yeah. But I've noticed in America, I think it's because of the rap and the hip hop culture, that people really dance, and dancing is a thing here.
Yeah. What about Europe?
I think Europe's in a similar boat to Australia. I think it's a big mix of lots of different cultures and lots of different things that people grew up with. I honestly really notice it significantly in America, that people love to dance. So thank you guys. You're amazing.
We do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I always love to get people moving.
Awesome.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I think moving people emotionally and physically is kind of two sides of the same coin, really.
Yeah.
You know, a concert that really moves your body can be an emotionally powerful experience, right?
Definitely. It can, yeah.
You ever feel that sense of unity with the audience, that
Oh, yeah, for sure.
you're all just in this thing?
Every time you're up there, you're just feeding off whatever the room is. I think Fatboy Slim did this article. I can only remember one of his quotes. They're all phenomenal. But one of them was that the performer should only ever and always give 20% more than the audience. So you don't want to be up there making a fool of yourself, going absolutely insane when everyone hates everything that you're playing.
Yeah.
You kind of got to like ease everyone into it
Right.
and make sure that you're on the same wavelength and trying to help everyone step it up just a notch each time.
Just you want to be like the most interesting person in the room.
Yeah, you want to be just a little bit more excited than everyone,
Yeah.
trying to get everyone a little bit more excited.
I always thought Eric Clapton looked so dignified on stage.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I wanted to ask you about. You're also a record producer.
Yeah.
For other people.
Yeah.
And is that, you see that as a sideline, or do you see everything you do as just part of one?
I mean, it's all part of the same thing, and this industry is so difficult and crazy, and that you never know what really is going to pop off. You know, you can put everything into a song, and it can be an amazing song. But a few things just don't quite happen. Some things
Not the
fall
right moment
through,
for it.
Not the right moment in
Yeah.
time, and it doesn't do what you thought it might. And then something you made 3 years ago suddenly gets a sync on a Super Bowl commercial, and then is back in the iTunes charts, and you know, that can happen.
Did that happen to you?
No, it didn't. I wish. That would be great. That happened to Empire of the Sun. Walking on a Dream was a massive song in Australia. I think in 2008 it came out. Maybe it was a little later, I can't remember. And then it was in the Super Bowl just this year gone. And it skyrocketed back into the charts. And I remember they hit up me and a few other people asking to do remixes of it because they're going to do a whole re-release of it. But it's pretty insane when something like that happens. And that's what happens in this industry. You really just can't predict.
Just the random, unexpected thing here and there.
You know, I hate to use the word luck ever, because, I mean, people put everything into making things happen. But it's definitely up to a combination of a lot of circumstances for something to really just pop off.
We were, before you all came in, we were talking, I was saying that, you know, sometimes when we had a forum and it was about music publishing, it wasn't the most exciting thing to you guys compared to having a artist and performer here. And you said, well, that is really an exciting subject.
Yes, you all need to care a lot about publishing, because that is where you will make real money in this industry.
And sync placements especially.
That is, it's literally the difference between things moving along nice and smooth and suddenly you can buy a house. Because it's money from nowhere.
Right.
You didn't work any harder or any differently to get that sync. Usually it's just that hotel chain happened to really want that song, and that's just fit the brief perfectly for what they're looking for, and then they give you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And you get the money, and you also get a career boost and publicity from
Exactly.
it. It's win-win.
Yeah. And this is the other thing, you know, that sync might be the thing that pops that song off in a completely different way to outside of your project, and is suddenly something that catapults you into more mainstream media.
What do you guys listen to on the bus? What do you listen to now that you're really into?
On the bus?
Or anytime.
So
I just remember listening to music on the bus a lot on the road.
Got it. We set up a studio in the back. I changed my entire rider for this. Like I said, it was the most productive I've ever been. So I changed my rider so that all it was kombucha, juice, raw vegetables, and brown rice. And
wow.
That was my rider. Oh, and lemon and pepper. That was the exciting part.
I think maybe you need to be my nutritionist.
So every morning we had a show every day. and in between when the guys had a couple of days off and were taking the bus further than 8 hours, I was flying out to do Canadian shows and a couple of festivals, and then flying straight back, usually having about 4 hours sleep in 48 hours, and then jumping on and performing again that night.
Right.
But when we were on the bus, the schedule became wake up about 2 p.m., get coffee, go exercise, do B-roll around whatever city we're in, run through all the video, photo assets that Joe had collected from the night before, have them scheduled, posting on social media at different times to hit the different territories around the world, write music in the studio, go do sound check.
So wait, I just want to interrupt you because
Yeah.
your social media work is like an important and scheduled
Yeah,
part of your work
you
day.
need to, like, I would go, traditionally, I love, by the way, when you guys put stuff, any cool videos you get from the show on Twitter, on Instagram, because I actually go through and look and see if anything cool popped up, because sometimes the best moment and the best shot is not from the guys you employ, but someone who just caught it
in the
right
crowd.
there in the crowd.
Right.
And I love finding that, so thank you, please always do that. I've always tag anyone who we took it down off. But yeah, that's a big part of it. So I'll do that, then I'll do sound check, then I'll eat, and then I'll go back to the studio, probably get some stuff ready for the show, maybe record one of the guys that was on the bus. We had Michael Christmas, we had Tunji, we had TK, and then, yeah, go do the show, jump up.
So not really a lot of time to listen to music for leisure.
No, not at all. And then after the show is have a couple of drinks, get on the bus, and then do about 300 emails. And then you get to go to bed at maybe 6, 7 in the morning.
Wait a minute, so how do you keep up with what's going on? Because you're a DJ, the part of what you do is knowing about music and that expertise, right?
We have, where was Sean? Is he here? There he is. So Sean you were an A&R at AM Only, is that correct? So thankfully for people like Sean, he will send me a Dropbox with maybe 50 tracks of,
Some stuff
of
to check
artists
out.
that they've been scouting, some of their roster.
Cool.
That's generally how I find music these days. I used to be one of those people sitting on every Reddit forum, be hot on following every young SoundCloud kid that was about to pop off. But I just...
Which is what they should be doing.
But I just can't. I don't, and
Yeah.
it all comes down to this time. And I'm just thankful that I've bumped into people that were just kind enough to be like, hey, I don't need to do this because I don't work for you, but here's some really cool songs that I like. Hope you like them too. And I'm like, yes, thank you, please always send me anything you find. And I have the same with, a bunch of promoters, a bunch of resident DJs around the world. And eventually a lot of these people end up representing artists and then they'll send me their songs. And often that's how I find my music, is just jumping into sessions with other musicians, and we all just sort of show each other some really cool things we've been finding, chatting to other people around the world who are in completely different cultures, different circles, different styles of music. And if I am listening to music, it is usually never dance music.
What's the most unlike dance music thing that you'd be listening to?
So there's a tiny bit of crossover in this, but what I would do, unfortunately not disciplined enough with this, but what I would try and do is every 2 weeks download 5 or 6 albums. I'll pick one that was current, and then maybe 1 or 2 that are classic albums from a certain period, maybe within the last 20 years, maybe a little earlier. And then anything else that had been put onto by some friends, maybe something really left field that might actually be electronic.
Right.
And what I'll do, I try to exercise every single day, because otherwise you sort of just fall apart trying to do all these things and sleeping 3 hours a night. And I would listen to these albums back to back while I'm running every day and try and work out what made it a classic album, what made it affect so many people, what made it just grab onto that time in the world, and analyze the melodies, analyze the tones, the textures, analyze the lyrics, and really just absorb it all and think about it. And I think that helps me a lot with writing my own music. It helps me understand simple things like getting from A to B in my production.
Right.
understand how certain rhythms work with certain instrumentation, and really just get a grasp of what it takes to make something that stands the test of time.
But also the way people sequenced those albums, which they don't do anymore because nobody thinks in terms of the album as a format so much anymore.
Yeah.
But it's also the way you were talking about sequencing your live show, right?
Yeah, definitely. I hope people start doing that again, because what's the
Well,
point?
I think there are some people doing it, but the industry has gotten less
Yeah.
album-oriented because of iTunes and buying a song
I
at
mean,
a time.
It's really tough at the moment because it's at this big shift again. I was lucky enough to be part of this whole Hype Machine blog SoundCloud wave.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of the first times where you saw kids with no money, no big company behind them, not even a manager, an agent sometimes, suddenly touring the world. And that's what happened to me. It's because those platforms gave you the ability to put yourself out there, show the world what you were, what you liked, how you sounded, and then if people bit to it, people clicked on it, it would just happen. You'd get show offers, you'd get people hitting you up to represent you. And I see a big shift now with a lot of these platforms being bought by companies, not independently run by people with a vision for, supporting just young people wanting to get a shot.
It's the inevitable
It is.
corporatization of
And I mean,
everything.
that's just what happens. Every 5 to 10 years, everything just completely folds and shifts. And
I think it happened with rock and roll labels in
Yeah.
the 50s, and it happened with hip-hop labels in the 80s.
I mean, it's
and
the
90s.
same concept as when people started putting out their own records rather
Right,
than
right.
selling all their soul and rights to a huge major label or something like that, and retaining the right for their own music and their own creative.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your music is involved with a lot of other people's music, not just because of influence, but because of collaboration.
Yeah.
And you've had some really interesting collaborations. And What's a Not started off as a collaboration between you and another DJ producer.
Yeah.
It's been you for about 2 years now.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's been me technically.
But you've
since,
collaborated with a lot of other people in the last 2
Oh, yeah,
years.
yeah, for sure.
And I wanted to ask you first of all, talk about Skrillex, or Sonny, if we can call him Sonny.
Yeah, we can.
You're on
See, they laugh.
his
I told you they'd
label.
laugh at that.
You're on his label, and you've worked together on music, right?
Yeah, yeah. I met Sonny on New Year's Eve when we had a show together in Australia. I think only not even 3 years ago. It feels like forever ago. And we ended up, he was really sick, he got food poisoning, but
So it's a good memory for
he
him.
still did the show, and then he was fine after that. And we ended up going back to back together. We never met, and we went back to back at this after party somewhere for like 5 hours. And then the next day he hit me up and he's like, dude, that was so cool. Do you want to come to the studio? And I was like, okay. And just went to the studio. We made 2 tracks in the next 2 days, which still haven't come out, but that's the music industry.
Right. It's got to be frustrating, though.
It's fine. It's like, it's just how it is. Like, often nobody's fault. It's just not finished, or you're not in the same space, or you don't see eye to eye for a short period of time, and then eventually you work out how to get through that. And
Right.
yeah, it's like, it's not an issue. It's just what happens.
Right, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, we worked together on a bunch of things then.
And I've heard that he is really just all about the music.
Totally, yeah, 100%. He's one of those people. He can do everything. He can sing. He can play guitar. He can play piano. He can make insane drum and bass sounds like nobody else can. He really does it all, and that is rare. That someone has all of the abilities to be able to do everything. A lot of people have ghost producers. A lot of people have.
If you're in
help
college
out.
at Loyola and you're thinking about doing all these things, would
Yeah.
you recommend for them to learn everything,
Learn
or
everything you can.
don't just pick one thing
No,
now and specialize in
learn
that?
everything about the business side, everything about the creative side. Even if you're not even planning on going into it, I can't tell you how important and how beneficial it is when I meet A&Rs that used to actually be musicians.
Right.
And they just get it, and they can go into a session and be like, hey, just change this one chord, or like, what if you try and do a little lift here? And,
Right.
and it makes all the difference to a song.
Toto.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Sonny's A&R, Chris Morris, just called them. And
Were you familiar with their music?
oh yeah, definitely. It was for a song, and I wanted, my reference was Toto Africa for the vocal. And then Chris Morris was like, I think I can make that happen. And I was like, really? And apparently the reason they decided to do
Probably
it,
more weird for them than for you, actually.
definitely, they said I was the first dance act they'd ever worked with. And the reason they went for it is that Lucas's son knew of What's In It and really liked it and said he should do it because it's cool.
Oh, great.
And I was like, great, awesome, thanks, buddy.
Has that come out?
No, it hasn't. I was actually just working on it on the plane over here, coming to New Orleans. That one I had to sit on for a minute because I had to get this whole Divide and Conquer EP all said and done and out.
Right, right. So it was back burner for a while.
Yeah, and I know Lucas is a little mad at me. I get a few tweets every now and again like, hey dude, what happened to that song?
Well, they wrote they wrote a really nice thing on their Facebook page about how much they liked working
Oh, they did.
with you.
No, they did. I feel slack because I had it on the back burner. There's a whole bunch of things going on in my project for a long time, which made a lot of things very difficult, but that's all in the past now.
Good.
And it means that as you can see, I've been able to finally do everything I wanted to do with this project for less than a year, and I've already put out, I think, 8 or 9 records this year, and I hope to just continually do that, just continually put out a record every 2 months or something like that, or have a larger body of work come in bulk.
Will you release music under any other name other than What's In It?
I actually came up with an entire different project when I wasn't sure what was happening with What's In It, but I'm going to keep that under wraps for now in case I actually want to use it.
It's possible.
Yeah, there's definitely a name, a whole bunch of music, and a whole creative idea for it.
I want to read one more quotation of yours.
Okay.
That I love. When you were asked about who you'd like to collaborate with, you said, check this out. I would love to work with Gorillaz at the Drive-In or Prince. And you just did do a Prince remix, is that right?
No, I didn't.
No, someone else?
Someone else did that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
I'm so sad. I remember I landed in Australia the day he'd passed, and I was just sort of...
But then you go on to say, what if I worked with someone like Bach or Beethoven? Those guys created not only genres, but defined huge periods in time. I imagine going back in time to work with them and imagining how they created their sound.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, because I never thought of them as creating a sound.
Yeah,
Like Beethoven sitting down and saying, what's the Beethoven sound,
I mean, it's like a period of time that is attributed to the things that they were creating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also fits in with what you were saying about listening to classic albums and how they fit into their time period and their culture.
Yeah.
Because everything is set.
Yeah.
In a time and place.
That's why, at least I strive to create, is to create something that actually matters and that means something and that can help people, that can help push for change that's needed. It shouldn't just be about writing a song or like writing a beat. It should be, creating a movement or at least something that people can enjoy and indulge in if everything else around it isn't so pretty.
What are you trying to get better at in your work?
Everything, all the time. Like every single day I'm researching plugins, talking to engineers, creating songs that I will never, ever, ever release, but so that I learn how to make that type of music or make that type of sound or patch or record live instruments or everything like that. And the same with business, the same with art. I started designing clothing finally. That was my first video that we watched.
Right.
So it's just every aspect of everything. I've started editing photos and learning how to take photos as well, and I hope to get into actually shooting video and making films eventually.
That's great. I have so many more questions I'd like to ask you, but I need to let them
Okay.
have a chance too, because I know a lot of them have questions. For you, can we bring the lights up a little bit? Well, while we're waiting for the lights to come up, Walker. There we go.
I, along with I think a lot of people in this room, dream, if not touring as an artist, as a part of an artist team. I was just wondering how you were introduced to your team, whether it was in a professional environment or whether they were friends, and then what you look for to surround yourself with on tour as a part of your team.
That's a really, really good question. That question sort of brings me back to when I was on one of my first tours here in America. It was on the Skrillex Mothership tour. And I remember seeing what it's like behind the scenes and seeing how many people are around that aren't doing the music, but doing everything else or being a hand in everything else. And watching essentially the ecosystem around him to give him the most optimal ability to create constantly not be stressed about this and that, and just focus on music, focus on the show, focus on spending time with everyone and collaborating with the other artists that are on the tour. And I remember thinking, I can't wait or hope that one day I have that. And I really feel like this last bus tour I did is the first time I feel like all the boxes have been ticked, and I'm just totally over the moon with everyone. Everyone's happy, everyone's good energy, everyone's pushing each other. I think the way I found all of these people, mainly just by stumbling across them in some walk of life. There's people I've been with since very early days of my career. There's people that are very new, and often people will come in and out of your sphere and in and out of your work relationship life. And that's kind of the way it goes. And it is tough because sometimes you come across people that you really like and that give you a great energy and help you do your work, but maybe they're not very good at their work in so much. And you actually have to balance out, well, is it okay that they're not that good at that particular aspect because it helps me be really good at what I need to be really good at, which is more valuable, and coming across all kinds of issues like that. I think the best thing you can do is start out by finding some sort of superior figure, usually within your hometown or something, or someone you can talk to frequently that isn't too busy. Generally, I think that happens if you do something that is innovative or sort of forward-thinking, and maybe you find this person, you send it to them, they really like it, they see a lot in you, and then that's usually the best way to instigate those kinds of relationships with a mentor type. And then they can usually point you in the direction of certain people who are coming up, who are on a similar level as you in a different sphere, and then you guys can work together. Maybe they do video and design, and they can help you build an entire live show, and you focus just on the music, and then it becomes this whole thing. And that's kind of the start of it, and then maybe you do that, and some manager sees that at your show, and then suddenly wants to manage you, and then takes everything to this other level. And it really is just organic like that. And the best way you can find those people is by being very, very good at what you are doing, if that makes sense. You really just need to show them something that is valuable. Everyone is attracted to things that are valuable. And you need to be doing something valuable that people see in you that they think they can help to get to another level.
Jacob?
Being from Australia and being so creative, one, have you ever heard of Tame Impala, the band? And two, do you see yourself collaborating with them?
I have heard of them. I've known about them for quite a while. My Australian agent represents them and has, I think, their entire career. I'd love to work with them for sure. I actually started work on a remix of their recent album, which I never finished, which I do with a lot of things. I start a lot of things and never finish them.
Yeah.
Oh, over here.
Off of that, starting a lot of things, not finishing them. It seems like you're very selective about the tracks that you decide to release in the end.
Yeah.
And, with me, as an artist, like when I create, especially electronic tracks, I want to get them out as soon as possible. And
yeah.
Sometimes I guess I don't think about what would make it truly good, releasable. What is your criteria? What is your standard?
It's weird. I have this internal standard, and often I'll show tracks to people and they really like them and they think I should put them out, and I just don't think I should. And it's just quite instinctual about whether you want to put it out or not. Generally, I won't put something out. It kind of has to tick all these boxes. There's this process, at least in my music, where there's if you're familiar with music, there's an A and a B, and then an A and a B, and then a C, which is the different sort of phases of the music that it goes through. and I'll need like say with a traditional What's So Not song, I'll need like a drop that I really like, and then I'll need a melodic version of that drop that I really like, and then I'll need a great verse that has some lyrical component, and then I'll need a bridge, and then I'll need a climatic version of the drop, and then I'll need the outro. And if I don't get all of those things up to a level that I think is really, really strong, then the track will just kind of never happen. It has to really tick all those different boxes. That's my criteria. It doesn't have to be anyone else's. I remember when I was starting out, sometimes we'd put up like a 1.5-minute piece of something online and just see if people bit to it. And if they did, then maybe we'd work and flesh out the rest of it and then try and release it on a record label or something. I think when you're starting out, you just need something to pop, something to get attention. And maybe you are still working out what is good and what isn't good. So maybe road testing by the vicious place that is the internet and people commenting on your stuff is a good way to find out if what you are doing is fitting into the world that you're trying to fit into to some degree.
Matt.
You've been doing this for quite a long time now. Is there any moment in your career that you wish you could go back and change or do something differently?
Not really. Even when you make horrible mistakes and do something completely stupid, there's generally a big lesson in it. There's definitely been points in my career when I thought it was probably going to just end, and that's across the last 10 years. It's not like any recent time in particular. You just hit points where things just aren't happening sometimes, or you've let things slide because you weren't paying enough attention, all kinds of things like that. And I think you learn very, very valuable lessons. And we were actually just talking about this before. I think you should try and make as many bad decisions very early on as you can without burning too many bridges and isolating everyone around you.
That's what the intro projects are for.
Yeah. Make as many mistakes as you can at the start, so that by the time you get up to a significantly higher level, you're not a rookie who's just pissing off these big dogs who've been doing it for 20 years, and you know what you're doing, and you can punch along with the rest of them.
Will.
What's the freakiest or scariest part of just starting out? Is it like the decision of I'm gonna do this? Is it like financial fear?
I think starting out is relatively easy. Deciding it is the sole focus of your career or life and what you want to do, that is the scary part. Is that more what you mean though, that point in time?
Is it a dream, or is it like you're so fed up with what you're doing that you just decide?
That was actually one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my life, for sure, was just being a kid from Sydney in Australia, growing up with a family with 2 accountants as my parents, no obvious creative in my family that was successful by any means. I didn't really think it was a thing that happened, and I didn't think it would be me that would be doing it at all. And I just remember that there's a few people around me that really believed in me, that were quite superior in the Australian scene at the time, and that kind of gave me the confidence in myself to just go for it. But it was really just the hardest decision I've ever made, and it really came down to me just finally believing completely in myself, and that I could do it, and that I knew it was going to be grueling and difficult for a while, but that it was the right decision to make.
Jeff.
You mentioned earlier that you were a drummer.
Yeah.
And as a punk drummer, where you're not really looking at it melodically, far more rhythmically, when you get to what you're doing now, both components are so important. When you start to create something, do you approach it from a more rhythmic or on the logic standpoint in the beginning?
I don't really have a process or a system. I know a lot of people that have like almost a template that they have as their default setting on their program of choice, and they kind of just put pieces and sounds into that template. But I've found that if you have too much of a template, it all sounds like you had a template, and it sounds like the last song you did. So really try and, this is probably one of the reasons why I take so long and don't finish half of my things, is because I'm intentionally not having a system to finish.
Yeah.
It's more, it needs to just magically happen in the spontaneity of everything.
It's actually reinventing the wheel is good.
Exactly.
In a
It's
sense.
more difficult, more time consuming, definitely more painful, but I think it has a better result. Traditionally, what really sets a song off for me in the very early stages is often some sort of tone or sound. You download all these thousands of sample packs. Some of them have like little chord progressions or melodies or tones or things like that. It might be a tiny piece of an arpeggiation in this long loop that I then hear a sort of flow to in an alternate melody using that as like the patch, I guess, of the synthesis. And sort of fleshing out something like that and then writing my own chords in the background of it and then bringing in some percussive elements of whatever I'm feeling at whatever tempo it tends to be at. But generally, it is that for me. I hear one little thing in something that I'm messing around with that sparks everything else, and it just sort of just blossoms like that. It would be productive but limiting.
It's not always about efficiency.
Yeah. If you're writing pop songs, I would use a template for sure, because that's what it is.
Do you write lyrics?
Yes, I do.
And when you work with a vocalist, sometimes you write a song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel that with, the success and popularity of electronic dance music lately, the bar has really been raised for, quality and what you accomplish over the course of your career? There's so much going on out there.
Yeah.
Feel pressure to be good. Or does that come from yourself?
I mean, pressure to be good is tough because I think there's always pressure to be good. Like, it's not like, it's like if you don't want to be good at it, then probably don't do it.
Right.
You should really want to be good at it.
Well, I guess the question is, do you feel sort of creatively stimulated by what you hear and see other people doing
definitely.
in the scene?
I think there's two folds. So first off, I sort of touch on pop music, which I mentioned in a negative light then.
Yeah.
I would also say, I feel like this whole wave of like all these beat kids and the success everybody had from this blog wave of music that wasn't really dictated or controlled by money and labels and things like that. I think that really forced pop music to shift and change, and I think pop music production is very, very cool now. And there's a lot of very interesting people working on that.
Right.
I think it always goes in waves, and I think right now is a real time when they're borrowing from a lot of different cool scenes that are going on. And what was the actual question? I've forgotten, I'm sorry.
I forgot too.
Okay.
You're spending the week in New Orleans.
I am,
You're
yes.
playing at Voodoo on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you're playing at the same time as G-Eazy, who is one of our alumni here.
Sorry.
But they've heard G-Eazy before.
They're all
so
mad now.
They can come here.
I heard he was from here.
And you're spending the week to do some recording and writing.
I am, yeah.
We're so happy to have you here. If you need any restaurant or club recommendations, we can talk about that. And anytime you want to stop by Loyola, we'd love to see you again.
We should all
Thank
go
you
out,
so much.
go out one night. That'd be great. Thank you.
Can I take them out with this?